Okay, welcome everybody. This is Nanette Kennedy with Humanities Team and Evolution Revolution. And last week we finished reading Conversations with God, Book 4. And it was a great book in my opinion. And we had lots of great conversations surrounding it. And today we are starting Friendship with God by Neale Donald Walsch. And if anybody's got a copy of the book, they can hold the book up because I don't have a copy. There you go. Friendship with God. There you go. So, unless anybody has anything laying over from last week, does anybody? Okay. Well, without further ado, Linda.
It was from the Days of Wine and Roses, Kirsten's name.
Oh. Haven't heard the movie for about...
You muted yourself. Okay, do you want me to start with the introduction or with the acknowledgments, or what do you want me to start with?
I would start with the introduction.
All righty. So here we go. It's Friendship with God, an Uncommon Dialogue by Neale Donald Walsch. Introduction. Try telling someone that you've had a conversation with God and see what happens. Never mind. I can tell you what happens. Your whole life changes. First, because you've had the conversation, and second, because you've told someone about it. To be fair, I should say that I did more than have a conversation. I've had a 6-year dialogue, and I did more than tell someone. I kept a written record of what was said and sent it to a publisher. Things have been very interesting ever since, and a little surprising. The first surprise was that the publisher actually read the material and even made it into a book. The second surprise was that people actually bought the book and even recommended it to their friends. The third surprise is that their friends recommended it to their friends and even made it into a bestseller. The fourth surprise is that it's now sold in 27 countries. The fifth surprise is that any of this was surprising, given who the co-author was. When God tells you he's going to do something, you can count on it. God always gets her way. God told me in the middle of what I thought was a private dialogue that this will one day become a book. I didn't believe him. Of course, I haven't believed 2/3 of what God has been telling me since the day I was born. That's been the problem. Not just with me, but with the whole human race. If we would just listen. The book that was published was originally enough called Conversations with God. Now, you may not believe that I've had such a conversation, and I have no need for you to believe it. It doesn't change the fact that I did. It simply makes it easier, if you choose to do so, to dismiss out of hand that I was told in that conversation, which some people have done. On the other hand, there have been many people who have not only agreed that such a conversation is possible, but have also made communicating with God a regular part of their own lives. Not just a one-way communicating, but communicating 2 ways. Those people have learned to be careful about who is told of this, however. It turns out that when people say they talk to God every day, they're called devout. But when people say that God talks to them every day, they're called crazy. In my case, that's perfectly okay. As I've said, I have no need for anyone to believe anything that I say. In fact, I'd rather that people listen to their own hearts, find their own truths, speak their own counsel, seek their own counsel, access their own wisdom, and if they wish, have their own conversations with God. If something I say leads them to do that, causes them to question how they've been living and what they've believed in part, brings them to a place of higher exploration of their own experience, moves them to a deeper commitment of their own truth, then the sharing of my experience will have been a pretty good idea. I think this was the idea all along. In fact, I'm convinced of it. That's why Conversations with God became a bestseller, as it did, as did books 2 and 3, which followed. And I think the book you are now reading has found its way into your hands to once again cause you to wonder, to explore, and to search for your own truth. But this time on an even larger topic. It is possible to have more than a conversation with God. Is it possible to have more than a conversation with God? Is it possible that you can have an actual friendship with God? This book says yes, and it tells you how. In God's own words, in this happily, our dialogue continues, taking us to new places and powerfully reiterating some of what has been told to me earlier. I am learning that this is how my conversation with God proceed. They are circular, reviewing what they have already been given, then dazzlingly spiraling into new territory. This 2 steps forward, 1 step back approach allows me to keep in mind previously shared wisdom, planting it firmly in my consciousness in order to form a solid basis for further understanding. That is the process here. It is not without design. And while at first this process is a bit frustrating, I have come to deeply appreciate its workings. For by planting God's wisdom firmly into our conversations, we affect our consciousness, we awaken it, we elevate it. And as we do so, we understand more. We come to remember more of who we really are, and we begin to demonstrate that. In these pages, I'm going to share a little bit about my past and about how my life has changed since the publication of Conversations with God trilogy. A lot of folks have asked me all about that, and that's understandable. They want to know something about this person who says he's having casual chats with the one upstairs. Yet that's not why I'm including these anecdotes. Snippets of my personal story are part of this book, not to satisfy people's curiosity, but to show how my life demonstrates what it's like to have a friendship with God, and how all of our lives demonstrate the same thing. That's the message, of course. All of us have a friendship with God, whether we know it or not. I was one of those who didn't know it, nor did I know where that friendship would take me. That is the great surprise here. That is the wonder. Not so much that we can and do have a friendship with God, but that friendship was designed to bring us and where it can take us. We're on a journey here. There is a purpose for this friendship we've been invited to develop, a reason for its being. Until recently, I did not know the reason. I was not remembering. Now that I am, I no longer fear God, and that has changed my life. On these pages and in my life, I still ask plenty of questions, but now I also provide answers. That's the difference here. That's the change. I'm now speaking with God, not merely to God. I'm walking alongside God, not simply following God. It is my deepest wish that your life will be changed in the same way was mine, that you too, with the help and guidance of this book, would develop a very real friendship with God, and that as a result, you will also speak your word and live your life with a new authority. It is my hope that you will no longer be a seeker, but a bringer of the light. For what you bring is what you will find. God, it seems, is not looking for followers as much as leaders. We can follow God, or we can lead others to God. The first course will change us. The second course will change the world. Neil Donald Walsh, Ashland, Oregon, July 1999.
Thank you. It's hard to believe that was almost 20 years
20.
ago. Yep.
19 years ago.
Yep. Linda, I don't know if your microphone is rubbing up against something, but there was some background noise.
Okay.
And thank you for reading.
Okay. I have a book this time instead of reading it off the computer. I wonder if that's what's making noise.
Oh, I don't hear it now. So.
Ready to go on?
Yep. Everybody ready to go on? Okay. Take it away.
Chapter 1. I remember exactly when I decided I should be afraid of God. It was when he said that my mother was going to hell. Okay, he didn't say it exactly, but someone said it on his behalf. I was about 6 years old, and my mother, who considered herself somewhat of a mystic, was reading the cards at our kitchen table for a friend. People came to the house all the time to see what sort of divinations my mother could extract from an ordinary deck of playing cards. She was good at it, they said, and word of her abilities quietly spread. As Mom was reading the cards on this particular day, her sister paid a surprise visit. I remember that my aunt was not very happy with the scene she encountered when, knocking once, she came bursting in through the back screen door. Mom acted as if she'd been caught red-handed doing something she wasn't supposed to be doing. She made an awkward introduction of her lady friend and gathered up the cards quickly, stuffing them into her apron pocket. Nothing was said about it in that moment, but later my aunt came to say goodbye in the backyard where I had gone to play. You know, she said as I walked with her to her car, your mother shouldn't be telling people their future with that deck of cards. God is going to punish her. Why? I asked. Because she's trafficking with the devil. I remember that shivering phrase because of its particular sound to my ear. And God will send her straight to hell. She said this as blithely as if she were announcing that it was going to rain tomorrow. To this day, I remember quaking with fear as she backed out of the driveway. I was scared to death that my mom had angered God so badly. And then and there, the fear of God was deeply embedded inside me. How could God, who was supposed to be the most benevolent creator in the universe, want to punish my mother, who was the most benevolent creature in my life, with everlasting damnation? This, my 6-year-old mind begged to know. And so I came to a 6-year-old's conclusion. If God was cruel enough to do something like that to my mother, who, in the eyes of everyone who knew her, was practically a saint, then it must be very easy to make him mad. Easier than my father. So we all had better mind our P's and Q's. I was scared of God for many years because my fear was continually reinforced. I remember being told in the 2nd grade catechism that unless a baby was baptized, it would not go to heaven. This seemed so improbable even to 2nd graders that we used to try to trip up the nun by asking pin her to the corner questions like, Sister, what if the parents are actually taking the baby to be baptized and the whole family dies in a terrible car crash? Wouldn't the baby go to heaven with her parents? Get to go to heaven? One nun must have come from the old school. No, she sighed heavily, I'm afraid not. For her doctrine was her doctrine. There were no exceptions. But where would the baby go? One of my classmates asked earnestly. To hell or to purgatory? In good Catholic households, 9 is old enough to know exactly what hell is. The baby would neither go to hell nor purgatory, Sister told us. The baby would go to limbo. Limbo? Limbo, Sister explained, was where God sent babies and other people who, through no fault of their own, died without being baptized into the one true faith. They weren't being punished exactly, but they would never get to see God. This is the God I grew up with. You may think I'm making this all up, but I'm not. Fear of God is created by many religions and is, in fact, encouraged by many religions. No one had to encourage me, I'll tell you that. If you thought I was frightened by the limbo thing, wait until you hear about the end of the world thing. Somewhere in the early 50s, I heard the story of children of Fatima. This is a village in central Portugal, north of Lisbon, where the Blessed Virgin was said to have appeared on repeated occasions to a young girl and her 2 cousins. Here's what I was told about that. The Blessed Virgin gave the children a letter to the world, which was to be hand-delivered to the Pope. He, in turn, was to open it and read its contents, but then reseal the letter, revealing its message to the public years later, if necessary. The Pope was said to have cried for 3 days after reading this letter, which was said to contain terrible news of God's deep disappointment in us and details of how he was going to have to punish the world if we didn't heed this final warning and change our ways. It would be the end of the world, and there would be moaning and gnashing of teeth and unbelievable torment. God, we were told in catechism, was angry enough to inflict the punishment right there and then, but having mercy on us and giving us this one last chance because of the intercession of the Holy Mother. The story of Our Lady of Fatima filled my heart with terror. I ran home to ask my mother if it was true. Mom said that if the priests and nuns were telling us this, it must be so. Nervous and anxious, the kids in our class pelted Sister with questions about what we could do. Go to Mass every day, she advised. Say your rosary nightly and do the Stations of the Cross often. Go to confession once a week, do penance, and offer your suffering up to God as evidence that you've turned from sin. Receive Holy Communion and say a perfect act of contrition before going to sleep each night, so that if you are taken before you wake, you'll be worthy of joining the saints in heaven. Actually, it never occurred to me that I might not live till morning until I was taught the childhood prayer. Now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. A few weeks of that, and I was afraid to go to bed. I cried every night, and nobody could figure out what was wrong. To this day, I have a fixation with sudden death. Often when I leave the house for a flight out of town, or sometimes when I go to the grocery store, I'll say to my wife, Nancy, if I don't come back, remember that the last words I said to you were, I love you. It's become a running joke, but there's a tiny piece of me that's dead serious. My next brush with the fear of God came when I was 13. My childhood babysitter, Frankie Schultz, who lived across the street from us, was getting married. And he invited me, to be an usher in his wedding party. Whoa, was I proud. Until I got to school and told the nun. Where's the wedding taking place? She asked suspiciously. I gave her the name of the place. Her voice turned to ice. That's a Lutheran church, isn't it? Well, I didn't know. I didn't ask. It is a Lutheran church. and you are not to go." "How come?" "You are forbidden," she declared, and something felt very final about that. "But why?" I persisted nonetheless. Sister looked at me as if she couldn't believe I was questioning her further. Then, clearly pulling from some deep inner source of infinite patience, she blinked twice and smiled. "God does not want you in a heathen church, my child," the nun explained. "The people who go there do not believe as we believe. They do not teach the truth. It is a sin to attend church anywhere other than a Catholic church. I am sorry that your friend Frankie has chosen to be married there. God will not consecrate the marriage." "Sister," I pressed, way past the toleration point, "what if I usher at the wedding anyway?" "Well then," she said with genuine concern, "woe unto you." Whew, heavy stuff. God was one tough hombre. There would be no stepping out of line here. Well, I stepped out of line. I wish I could report that I based my protest on higher moral grounds, but the truth is, I couldn't stand the thought of not getting to wear my white sport coat with a pink carnation, just like Pat Boone was singing about. I decided not to tell anyone what the nun had said, and I went to the wedding as an usher. Boy, was I scared. You may think that I'm exaggerating, but all day long I actually waited for God to strike me down. And during the ceremony, I remained watchful for the Lutheran lies that I had been warned about. But all that minister said were warm and wonderful things that made everyone in the church cry. Still, by the end of the service, I was sopping wet. That night, I begged God on hands and knees to forgive me my transgression. I said the most perfect act of contrition you've ever heard. "Oh my God, I am heartily sorry for having offended thee." I lay in bed for hours, afraid to fall asleep, repeating it over and over again. And if I die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Now that I've told you these childhood stories, and I could tell you many more for a reason, I want to impress on you how real my fear of God was. Because my story is not, as I've said, it isn't just Roman Catholics who stand frightened, posed before the Lord from it. Half of the world's people believe that God is going to get them if they're not good. Fundamentalists of many religions strike fear into the hearts of their followers. You can't do this. Don't do that. Stop it, or God will punish you. And we're not talking about major prohibitions here, like thou shalt not kill. We're talking about God being upset if you eat meat on Friday. He's changed his mind on that, though. Or pork on any day of the week, or get a divorce. This is a God you will anger by failing to cover your female face with a veil, by not visiting Mecca in your lifetime, by failing to stop all activities, roll out your carpet and prostrate yourself 5 times a day, by not marrying in the temple, by failing to go to confession, or attending church every Sunday, whatever. We have to be careful with God. The only problem is that it's hard to know the rules because there are so many. And the most difficult thing is that everyone's rules are right, or so they say. Yet they can't all be right. So how to choose? How to know? It's a nagging question, and not an unimportant one, given God's apparently small margin for error here. Now along comes a book called Friendship with God. What can this mean? How can it be? Is it possible that God is not the holy desperado after all? Could it be that unbaptized babies do go to heaven? That wearing a veil or bowing to the east, remaining celibate or abstaining from pork have nothing to do with anything? that Allah loves us without condition, that Jehovah will select all of us to be with him when the heavens of glory are at hand? More fundamentally earth-shaking, is it possible that we couldn't be referring to God as a him at all? Could God be a woman? Or even more unbelievably, without gender? For a person raised as I was, even thinking such thoughts can be considered a sin. Yet we have to think them. We have to challenge them. Our blind faith has led us down a blind alley. The human race has not progressed very far in the past 2,000 years in terms of its spiritual evolution. We've heard teacher after teacher, master after master, lesson after lesson, and we're still exhibiting the same behaviors that have produced misery for our species since the beginning of time. We're still out killing our own kind, running our world on power and greed, sexually repressing our society, mistreating and miseducating our children, ignoring suffering, and indeed, creating it. It's been 2,000 years since the birth of Christ, 2,500 since the time of Buddha, and more since we first heard the words of Confucius or the wisdom of the Tao. And we still haven't gotten the main questions figured out. Will there ever be a way to turn the answers we already received into something workable, something that can function in our daily, day-to-day lives? I think there is. And I feel pretty certain about it because I've discussed it a lot in my conversations with God. Keep going.
Is that the end of your chapter 1?
Yeah.
How funny. That's not the end of mine.
Really?
Yep. Oh, well. Does anybody have anything they want to say?
Oh, yeah, I do. I think it's time for the meditation because I'm a Muslim and all that stuff is really annoying because I don't associate with them, with Muslims, because there's no fun in fundamentalism, you know? It just isn't my thing. But Catholics aren't my bag either.
But you love me.
On Tuesdays. Well, no, but seriously though, this is the whole. Of course, I love you, Nanette. You know I do.
I know.
That's why I have to pretend like I don't. What we need to do right here, right now, I think, is open the portal wide, because it's time.
Okay.
And I think that this is the place to start, if that's all right with everyone.
I'm good with that.
Okay, so here's the meditation, and let's take the 2 minutes, darling. Okay. We're here now because this is the time, this is the place to end the bigotry, the tunnel vision, the stupidity, the othering, the exclusion. And instead, we are visualizing and building the new world, which is built on compassion, togetherness, community, harmony, and love. And our hearts in this group are wide open to every heart in the universes because we believe in love. Amen.
Beautiful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Shabana.
I've got something to say. Um, in my visualization just now, I saw torn fabric, which is what this world looks like to me. And I just got the glue out and bound it. And Roy's doctor was here, and I got mad at him because of something stupid he said. And Source spoke through me and said, love is the glue that binds the universes, and no one's taking their money with them because that's what everyone's about. They're about power and money and anything but getting your claws out of what really counts. So I just feel grateful that Neil brought up the Muslims because boy do they get on my nerves, almost as bad as the Catholics.
Oh, you crack me up. Um, one of the things I wanted to add to what you were just saying, Shabana, and I made a note of it where the nun is talking to the child, Neil Donald Walsh, and says, you can't go into a Lutheran church. And the note I made for my own purposes, I said, I'm glad I wasn't raised that way. Because I was not raised that way. Neil's a few years older than I am by like 12 or 13 years. But my parents didn't have that kind of attitude towards raising the kids. I mean, I have some memories that are a little off, from Catholic school, but I don't ever remember, like I never got hit on the knuckles, which is I know people have, but that was not accepted when I was a kid. And we were taught to love everybody. The one thing that was, I thought was kind of a weird thing is that if you were baptized a Catholic, the only salvation for you was to remain Catholic. And I never believed that, as I never believed that babies who didn't get baptized would go to limbo or whatever. Although I will say, when my son was at an age, I mean, he was 8 weeks old or so, I did go have him baptized. I went to the American Catholic Church, which is like the Anglican Catholic Church. And I in that church, they didn't believe that at all. They thought it was just a blessing for this brand new life. And so I'm just, because I could see where, and I do have some fears from lay me down and take my soul if I shouldn't wake business. Anyway, now I'm rambling, but I'm just wanted to say that for me, it wasn't the nightmare that it seems like it was for Neil. Over.
And Shabana, it's so interesting what you said, because as many of you know, I do the Essene Book of Days, and I'm in my 29th year of following this practice that follows the seasons of nature. And the blessing tonight is directly connected to what you said, I think. It is, there is a sacredness that infuses my life as I realize that my own growth is my work. I am the artist, I am the canvas, I am the paint. And I ask that the artist be ever guided by the artist, and that as I grow, I come to know the perfection of the unfinished masterpiece called life on earth.
That is the most beautiful thing. I love it.
It's one of my favorite blessings. And the blessings, they change, like the focus of the day stays the same for all 7 days. It's a different focus for each day. But the blessings and the meditations change about every 6 to 8 weeks, depending on the cross-quarter day. So this one started after February 1st, which is Imbolc, which is the washing of the face of the earth. So yeah, it's one of my favorites too, Shabana.
I'm so enriched by your sharing it. Thank you, Christine.
Yeah, I thought it related directly to what you were saying and feeling, right? The fabric of, that, yeah. I think we're here to take out the stress knots and, just rest in faith.
Can you put it in the chat window what you read, or is it too long?
I've been doing this for 29 years, so I pretty much know them all by heart, but I'll type it in for you happily.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Linda, I'm dying of curiosity to hear what you've got to say, because the expression on your face was beyond hilarious.
I just wanted to add that I've come to the realization for myself anyway, when I think of this struggle of the people with the money and the power and all of that, the way I've started to look at it is basically, I think that what we're in right now is this awakening on earth of two different kinds of people that are in service to themselves versus people who are in service to others. And all the people with all the money are at this point in service to themselves. Not all of them, because some of them are being philanthropic with it, but like in the situation you find yourself in with these very rich people, it's just a matter of their focus being shifted, and they're asleep to it. So that's the awakening, is that everyone is going through right now, is that in order to create the kind of world that we all really want, we have to give up service to self and move into a place of service to others. And as we do that, then these other hierarchies will start to fall apart.
Linda, that's the party line of humanity's team.
Right.
Like, we all believe that we are one, da-da-da-da, right? However, today I got a revelation. I mean, I have conversations with God, and today He hit me on the head with a 2x4. I mean, I had a concussion. I'm not kidding. Guess what he had to say? I mean, I was telling my sister I had to phone someone and say, gee, the man, I mean, source talked back. I asked a question, right? And when I got the answer, I was just, I mean, like I'm still feeling it. The story is this. Our expectation of others is supposed to be, I mean, I've got a scripture I love. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is right. Let your mind dwell on these things, and the peace of God will be with you. I'm just abbreviating it. That's the Christian scripture. And so we're not supposed to be suspicious or judgmental or anything ever. And
Right.
I mean, that's the party line, right? Is that what you're doing is simply exhibiting your lack of self-love when you do that.
Mhm.
If you loved yourself, then even the worst serial killer would look like a saint, because they're all headed to heaven to join Hitler. Okay? Like, that's the story, right? There's a place in heaven for everyone, because we're all play acting, right? The world is a stage and we're all players, blah, blah, blah. Well, again, I believed it because I'm so gullible and stupid, right? And today, what Source said to me is this opportunity to rip people off is a big one, and they're happy to take it. So walk away, darling. That's what I got, is that no one here is waking up. Like, their favorite sport is to talk about all the idiots they met and how they ripped them off. That's their family conversation. Is, hey, I mean, my brother says there's a joke that there's one born every minute, but these people are gung ho.
Right.
Like, when you're saying that people, like, you didn't name Voldemort, you didn't name Donald Trump, but what you're saying is they will awaken, right? They don't want to awaken. They want to rip you off all the way to the time they die, and then they're headed to heaven like everyone else.
Right.
But with more money.
But it's not for us to worry about them.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I got. Is I got two. These are Muslim scriptures. No one knows them. But what it said is, walk away and look after yourself, because there's nothing here. They're happy. In fact, they're delighted, because with all this party line of humanity's team, it's idiots like me who are loving and giving because it's the right thing to do. And Source was saying, get out of here quick. And so I'm declaring that by doing the meditation, because I didn't expect it, Linda. I was thinking, like you, that they will wake up. Not if they put on the blinders and they're bragging about, I mean, I'm just one that they ripped off, but they're vampires for labor.
Yeah. They'll wake up when their time is right for them. And
It's
not a
not
moment
even a
sooner.
concern to me.
Right.
Like,
Exactly.
don't look back.
Exactly.
And you see, like there's always idiots, and the way they buy them is by telling them that, hey, you've got a part of the company, so get to work real early and stay real late, because you're investing in your own self, right? And I was thinking, I'm setting an example for them to elevate, right? Like the meditation I did just now, right? But the point is that they've said, hey, like Donald Trump has said, like you explained it last time, is that what was it, draining the swamp, right? You got it long before I ever did. That draining the swamp is not what humanity's team thinks it is.
Right.
So but I never put two and two together because I was willfully blind to what's really going on. So as you said, there are two worldviews, but the old one has already fallen like a house of cards. But this sport of enjoying the idiocy of others, I'm moving because they've enjoyed it long enough. But I did get what you were saying, Linda. It's just that it didn't make sense in this situation now. Are we making sense to anyone else or just each other?
Well, I think you both said a lot of, made some valid points. And as Christine often says, we're not expected to be perfect. We're innocent, and
the innocence believes, just like the little kid that goes to the store and raises their hand and expects the shopkeeper to take out the right amount of money. Well, the innocence believed a whole lot of things that simply place limits on us, and really, truthfully, we're unlimited. And that's what this group avatar that is forming right now on this sacred planet is doing, is we are the pioneers of the new way of unity and oneness, which is the truth. And I'm going to have to leave in 2 minutes, and I love you all. And I'm so grateful to be part of this book group for so many years now, Nanette. How long have we been going?
I don't know. It's got to be close to 3.
It's more than that, because I used to get up at 8 o'clock my time to be part of the group on a Friday morning. And then I was grateful when we moved to Sunday.
Yeah, well, we've been doing it a long time, and this is like our 7th or 8th book.
Yeah, we've been doing it for a very long time. So we're together as a cohesive unit here.
Yes, we are. We're not going anywhere.
No.
I was going to say before you leave, I think this next chapter is so long that we don't start it till next week.
Right.
If everybody's good with that, because we're only going to be able to read a couple pages.
So I'm good with it.
Okay. All right, everybody. I love you, and we'll see each other next week.
Well, I love you too, Nanette.
Good.
Good thing.
Yeah.
Love you all.
All right, bye-bye.
She's the leader.